Welcome to the Work the System podcast, where we help entrepreneurs make more and work less using systems. And I'm your host, Josh Fonger. And today we have a special guest, Robert Moss. After spending years as a physical therapist running a small practice, Dr. Robert Moss shifted his focus to streamlining his processes to give him more time to spend with his family. Out of this shift sprung a passion for helping other business owners do the same, while also maximizing their profitability and customer satisfaction. All right, Robert, again, happy to have you here.
Josh, it's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I've worked with you for a while, and so now to be on the podcast and talk about all these crazy systems that I've built over the years, it's going to be a fun talk, I think.
Definitely, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. And so now you get to be the expert and coach our audience. And just for full disclosure, Robert, previous client and true expert in systems, systemized his practice, and so he's a certified WTS consultant. And so we're really excited to hear about how he systemized his business, and then how he's systemizing others. But before we get into it, why don't you give us the backstory, Robert? How did you get into physical therapy, and then turn to becoming a business consultant?
Yeah. So to be perfectly honest, Josh, I was a little bit lazy coming out of high school, and had an interest in health and kind of lifting weights. But I thought maybe, physician somewhere along that line. And then I really started diving in, and, it's like, 8, 9, 10, 12 years after you do residency. And I was, kind of a bit of a lazy high school kid. And I thought, well, what else can I do still medically related? And ran across physical therapy. And thought, well, that's pretty cool. That's like a 3-year degree. And I kind of got caught in a transitional period. So it ended up being 7 years. And then after I got out, I was so in love with it. I actually went back and did my doctoral work. So that was another 4 years, so now we're close to 11. And then I've worked on other certifications and orthopedics and manual therapy and all this sort of stuff. So, it's been at least a dozen years, and looking back, you just don't know what you don't know. But I wouldn't change anything. It's been an amazing career to help so many people and influence their lives.
So why don't you tell us about the systemization of your business, and then we'll talk about other companies. So you're running your business for a while, owning a physical therapy center. So what did you do to your business, or how did it change?
So the biggest, like probably most of us as, business owners, is something hurts. And it's true in physical therapy. When something hurts, that's when you go to the therapist, the doctor, or whatever. And so we were chugging along. We had opened in 2006. About 2015, a lady that had been with us for basically from the beginning popped up and said, hey, having some marriage issues. I'm moving out of the area. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. And first I thought, I feel bad that she's having marriage issues. And then I thought, well, wait a minute, she's been with me since 2006, and she has so much stuff in her head that I don't know what she does, because I'm in the back treating patients. So we frantically started writing stuff down and trying to do, systems at that time. And then once she left, I felt a lot of pain just in trying to figure everything out. And so what we did was then I kind of went on this quest, and I had, heard about E-Myth, and I'd read the book, but hadn't really applied it. And then either a friend told me about Work the System, or I stumbled upon it. I can't remember exactly how I found it, but I got that book, and I was like, okay, that's the missing piece that I needed. And of course, the next step was from there. I read through the book, went through the coaching program, loved it so much, wanted to learn even more. So I took the deep dive and went with the certification process. And all the while, tried not to make my staff crazy with building systems in the business.
So tell us about it. So you've gone the full cycle here. And so now let's just say somebody has marriage problems again and leaves the company in 2 weeks. Do you have things dialed in, or are you nervous still?
No, we're dialed in pretty tight right now. What's the Beatles song? One is the loneliest number. That's true in business. If you've got only one of something and you don't have some type of backup system, you need to find yourself a backup system. So we've got a lot of stuff dialed in. As an owner now, I'm a lot more hands-on in terms of just really meeting with the staff and holding them accountable. Whereas before I wasn't as much. It was kind of like, she's great, she's got it. And I wasn't checking in as much. So that's something else that I've also dialed in on the process. I have a little bit more of a leadership team now, set weekly meetings, set monthly meetings, We're constantly looking over some of the processes that we're doing. If we've changed some software, so we go back and tweak those processes. A lot more involved, but it's not me doing all of the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very cool. So let's talk about your coaching journey. So what made you decide that you wanted to actually work with other companies? I mean, do you have to still work in your business, or do you have enough freedom where you can work with other companies now?
Yeah, no, I'm still working in the practice right now. We have a new therapist that's going to come on in August. So we've got our, we have a hiring system and we've got an onboarding system. So I'll help take her through that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to allow me to step back and do a little bit more coaching as well. But really, for me, I've always kind of been, like I said, after I got out of the lazy high school kid, right? Once I hit college and got into therapy school, it's been just full bore knowledge. Like I've, going through books at a time and podcast and all this stuff. And so really for me, it was about, taking a deeper dive and forcing me to work the system method even more so I could help my team. But then as I start talking to other business owners, realizing like how they don't understand it, they don't really get it. And it was my opportunity then, I feel like I can give back to them, especially in the healthcare environment, because a lot of times we're just the doer, right? We're just out there treating the patients and we're not thinking about the financial system or the hiring system. And we almost abdicate it to somebody else. And then we get mad when we look up and it's not running the way we want. And it's, it's on us.
So a big thing, and I'd like to kind of explore this with you a little bit, was you first started and you were working hard, but then you put the systems in. Do you feel like you have a lot more control now? I mean, where you could actually not be at the office and know what you're doing based on the numbers now compared to actually having to be there before?
Yeah, most definitely. So we have different scorecards and dashboards, that we look at. I can view those from, here at the house. I can be in the office. And then when we meet with the team, it used to be me talking at the team, and now it's them talking to me and presenting their numbers. So, I've got kind of a financial leader, I've got a physical therapy leader, and then my front office manager. So they're all reporting their stats on a weekly basis. And then we use kind of a traffic light system. So green, yellow, and red, and anything that hits that red status, that, becomes the issue that we really need to dive into to figure out what's going on. Yellow. Yeah, we kind of look at it, but if it's, just a little weird thing going on for the week or so, of course, here it's been this last quarter with COVID, but, we dive into that a little bit, and then green, boom, keep plugging along with what we're doing. But yeah, the freedom of really more the peace of mind of being able to step out of the office and know that when I come back, that everything is still intact and a lot of times running better than when I left. That gives me a lot of peace of mind and security in my team.
So what was the first thing that changed for you before you decided to systemize your business or put the systems in place? Because I mean, you already were an owner for a number of years. Was it that was it the person who left, or was it a mindset shift that really got you going, or what was kind of the beginning thing that led you to where you are now?
Right. For me, it was really kind of I would say the pain point of the employee leaving was kind of the kick in the pants that I needed. Mm-hmm. Leading up to that, I was studying marketing systems. And as a therapist, I have, evaluation and treatment systems that but for some reason I didn't click as a business owner. Like I need to put systems in the business. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until we had that pain point of someone leaving that had almost 9-10 years of knowledge in their head that I'm like, okay, I have to figure this out, because otherwise I can't work 80 hours a week. I'm going to destroy my marriage. I'm going to destroy my kids. The business isn't going to be fun. I'm not going to enjoy it. So I have to figure something out. So that was the big point there.
That's interesting. Yeah. I'm asking that question because I'm trying to figure that out, because whenever I talk to someone about it, it's always something really painful or horrible or challenging has to happen first before they're really ready to get serious about their business. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I create that in people without having to create the kind of pain that makes it happen. That's interesting.
Well, if you can if you can figure it out, I'd use it in my physical therapy business as well, because that's the main thing is we'll have people come in and the shoulder moves maybe at 50%. I'm like, okay. And they're like, but it doesn't hurt. I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't move well. Like if we don't fix this, it will hurt. So when they show up 6 months later and they've got terrible pain, you almost want to go, well, I kind of told you so. And yeah, that's the same thing in business. But I think sometimes as owners, we're head down, we're entrepreneurs, we're driving. And if we don't take the time to stop and look up and really evaluate what's going on, yeah, sometimes we just have that massive car crash and then the pain comes, and then we start looking for people to help us get out of the pain.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I want to ask you about is, because I know it's a very human to human, face to face kind of business, physical therapy, people get at relationships. And there's a lot of companies like this where you really are face to face. And people think, well, how do you systemize those kind of relationships? Was it systems that did it, like documented step by steps, or was it more the principles you put in place so that instead of you working with your clients, you enabled them through principles? Like what really helped your business?
It's a little bit of both. I think it depends. So if it's, someone in the front office having to order supplies, it's just kind of a written checklist. And we have, a spreadsheet that tracks what we've got on hand, and we have set minimums we want to order. And so from that perspective, it's more of just kind of like I said, written out procedure. This is what you do. But in terms of like the principle and the customer service and things like that, so we talk about our magical core values, right? So making a difference, our attitude, gratitude, integrity, customer service, attention to detail, and leadership. And those are really the core things that we kind of push with the team. And if they do, if they work according to those core values on a daily basis, then they're going to help take care of the customer, and they're going to do the right thing. And so I have a fantastic team that's around me right now. And I would love to say it's all because of me and my hiring processes or something like that. But it's because when people come in, they kind of feel that vibe. And if they don't naturally get along with that, then they're kind of out the door pretty quick. And so a lot of our kind of lower level, I would say, but assistants that we have that aren't licensed, they were sometimes former patients, or their parents were a patient, and they came and hung out, and they just thought it was a fun environment. And they sign up, they want to come work here because now they want to be a physical therapist or a physical therapist assistant or something like that. So hopefully it's part of that environment that we've created, but based off mainly a lot of the principles that we lay out.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because a lot of times people, when they hear about our methodology, they think, oh, you just write down systems, and then you have these people who are like robots, and then they just do it every single time. And you're explaining exactly what I thought is you actually need both, and those principles guide you and attract the right people. Now, I was going to ask you, so with regard to your business now, it was already pretty dialed in when we started working together. Have you noticed the profitability going up in your business because of systems? And if so, was there one you can point to, or is it just accumulation of just doing things right repeatedly?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the Kaizen principle, one small step at a time. And as we started building the systems and kind of adjusting the different levers of the business, that was really kind of that exponential movement forward in terms of, not only revenue, but also the profitability, because we could look and we really started paying attention to the metrics a lot more. That was kind of the main thing I would say is I wish it was one little magic button for somebody, but it's not. And, you gave me a great bit of coaching advice, and I was like, well, where do you start, with systems? And it's where I started. The most painful thing that you have going on right now, and you put out that fire and you take care of it, and then you move on to the next one. And it's not to say that you put it on the shelf and never visit it again. You have to constantly keep coming back to these things, make sure they're updated, make sure the staff that is there doing them, that they fully understand what's going on.
So speaking of staff, what do they say? I can guess at what they're saying, but are they happy that you did this? Because at the beginning, they might not have been. Are they happy now that you actually took the effort and put the systems in place?
They are. It's kind of a running joke. It's like we call them SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures. Sure. And they're like, that was the biggest thing is they would come to me with the question, and I'd say, okay, what does the SOP say? Can't you just tell me what it is? And I'm like, I could, but here's the thing. There's so many things going on in my mind. I'm quite liable to tell you wrong. Uh-huh. And then if you went back and reviewed it and you're like, well, you told me to do it this way and the procedure said this way, the procedure is right. And if you read it and for some reason we've changed something, well, we just need to update the procedure. Uh-huh. And plus it makes them think, okay, where's the procedure? How do I do this? And it's going to force them to put a little bit more knowledge into reading through and memorizing that procedure so they don't have to come, get me next time. And that was the ultimate goal of it, is not, constantly putting out fires for people.
So at first they were like, they were maybe used to going to you every single time, like, hey, Robert, how about this? But now they something like they're in a habit now where they're used to you not being there, so they're okay with that.
Yeah, most definitely. I think, they still want to come to me every once in a while, and it depends on, what it is. I certainly, I'm there to lead and help them. But at the same time, things that are a lot more complicated and have more steps involved and linked to other procedures, like you really have to go pull this up and we have to look at it, because honestly, half the things my front office does, why are you asking me? I haven't answered a phone in years, right? And now you're going to come ask me something about answering the phone or transferring a line. I'm like, I'm lucky to be able to pick up my own line, much less transfer it to somebody else in the building. Yeah.
Well, I think that's great for people to hear, is that also now you get to solve challenging, complicated, new problems, and the standard ones are already figured out, right? And I think that's what gives you confidence to expand and to push to new levels, because the regular things they're not fires anymore, right? Like the serious things matter. Well, I wanted to ask you a question about actual systems, since we're talking about systems here.
Sure.
Can you think of a system you put into your business or your personal life or someone else's company that made a big impact? And you can tell us what that was and what it did for your business.
Yeah. So I love kind of the marketing stuff about business. I love treating patients. I mean, it's all a lot of fun. And so, for me to kind of step back on some of that stuff, I was like, okay, we've got to get this dialed in and write up the system. And so every month we send I call it the physical therapy telegraph, right? Old school print newspaper, goes to our patients. And I enjoy writing kind of the main cover story and the main, thing that's happening, whether it's in the clinic or in my personal life. But the rest of it, like, I don't want to gather all the other stuff. And we put in our past patients and our new patients, we recognize them and have a patient of the month and all that sort of stuff. And so we've written a system where the front office handles the rest of that newsletter. So like today, we're getting it ready to go to print. I just notified the girl up front. I said, okay, my story is in there. You're good to go. She takes the rest of it. She finds little funny memes, everything else, sends it off to the printer. They mock up the proof. They send it back. Front office checks it for spelling errors, whatever else, sends it back out, sends the approval, done. Whereas before it was like driving me nuts of like going back and forth with proofing and looking for stuff. And I'm like, this isn't right. Like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, well, that's a great example for anyone who wants to do ongoing marketing, which a lot of companies should. A simple newsletter once a week, once a month, really effective. And it doesn't mean that you as the owner have to be involved. There's a lot of ways where you can put your stamp on it and then have the rest of it systemized. So that's a great system. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
I think a lot of times when you say automate, most people think, okay, something with, Infusionsoft or, Active Campaign, but automation could also mean that other staff is automatically kind of taking care of that task for you. Now, obviously you've got to rely on the people, but I think getting things off of your plate and really doing what you feel led to do, or whatever your key responsibilities are as the leader. And then that way you can really focus and work in your unique ability and let the rest of the staff kind of handle some of those other things. Because other staff, they may look at this like, oh, this is a blast. Well, that's the person you want on that task, versus if they hate it as much as you, they're not going to put the love into it. So you got to find that right, key staff member sometimes as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I totally agree. Yeah. And oftentimes when I'm thinking of automate, I'm not thinking of get some kind of special technology, just like you is like, just this podcast will automatically be taken care of by a team of people and through a system. And so, that's great. So what is a question, Robert, that I didn't ask you, but I should have, that you think the audience, the small business owners listening to this need to hear about?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes, or the question, maybe my largest business mistake, would be, one, not implementing systems when I first started, right? So if I could rewind, 14 years, it would start out putting systems. But again, I wasn't, the pain at that point was, how am I going to get patients in here? How am I going to get paid? Can I support my family on this? That was the biggest thing. And the second would be to kind of set that vision. And like you mentioned earlier, not forget about your people. You don't want robots working for you. You want people that are going to take responsibility. They know what those key results are. They know what they're being held accountable for. And you can have systems to help you do that. But at the end of the day, you still have people that have families that are working for you, and you need to treat them as such. It's not just a assembly line process.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, even more today than ever before, there are knowledge workers. No matter where they are in the world, they're working for you.
Right.
They got good ideas, and you need those ideas. Oh, let me ask you this question, because this relates. So, since you're involved less and less in the day to day, your procedures still need to be tweaked. Are you finding that your team actually is engaged in tweaking or improving the systems of your business, or does it still rely on you having to come up with the new ideas?
Not so much me coming up with the ideas, but they need a little nudging every once in a while. Like, okay, we got to make sure on a regular basis we're pulling them out. And actually, glad you brought that up, because I was having a meeting with our front office team the other day, and one of the ladies has been up there a little bit over a year, and she said, I can really tell the difference between some procedures that one person wrote versus someone else. I said, well, tell me about that. He said some of these are like super detail oriented, and others are very vague and just kind of gloss over. I said, well, that's a great opportunity as you're learning new things that we dive back into that system and we update it. So, and the next point is to give someone else in the office that normally doesn't do that task, give them the opportunity to run through it, because if they can read it and handle it, then we know we're dialed in pretty good. If they look at it and they have a bunch of questions, we got to go back to the drawing board and we got to update that. And when I say we, I mean you, because you own that position.
No, that's great. Well, empowering them to make their work better, and people actually take more pride in their work when they do that. Well, that's great. Well, Robert, you've really shown, at least to me during this interview, that you know how to systemize a business because you've done it, you've lived it, right? So where can people find more about you and the coaching and consulting work that you do nowadays?
Yeah, right now, probably LinkedIn is probably one of the best tools to do that. We're working on probably putting up a website for the business consulting at the moment here. And so we'll have something in the future so we can get that up. Or if you want to visit me through our physical therapy page, you can do that and then send me a contact as well. That's just springtownphysicaltherapy.com.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. And Robert, we're going to get you on the Work the System website as well, put you up there so people can find you on workthesystem.com under certified consultants. But again, Robert, thanks for taking the time this afternoon to share with us your wisdom on how to systemize a business. And thanks everybody for listening today or watching us on Facebook Live. Now, hopefully you got a lot of value out of this. Stay tuned next week. I'll be sharing with you another business expert like Robert, sharing with you how you can improve your business so you can make more and work less. And also, if you want a copy of that book right there behind me, you can find it at workthesystem.com for free to download, or you can send us a screenshot of a review. If you leave a review for us anywhere, send that review to info@workthesystem.com. And then once a week, we grab one of those reviews and we will mail you out a copy of the book. Otherwise, we will see you next week.
Thanks, Josh.